Live, where I get the chance to chat with luminaries in eDiscovery and related areas.
Welcome to eDiscovery Leaders Live, hosted by ACEDS and sponsored by Reveal. I am George Socha, Senior Vice President of Brand Awareness at Reveal. Each Friday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern, I host an episode of eDiscovery Leaders Live, where I get the chance to chat with luminaries in eDiscovery and related areas. Past episodes are available on the Reveal website. Go to revealdata.com, select Resources, then select eDiscovery Leaders Live. Our guest this week is Toni Millican. Toni is Senior Director, Information Governance and Data Protection at Trinity Industries. Trinity Industries, which is headquartered in Dallas, Texas, is North America's premier provider of rail car products and services. Their products are an integral part of the supply chain that helps fuel our lives and our economy. Toni joined Trinity in 2017 to build their eDiscovery program. She now leads the company's data privacy, information governance, eDiscovery, and litigation support functions, and plays an integral role as well in cyber threat protection. She's a certified eDiscovery specialist, CEDS, with over 30 years of legal industry experience, both in the public and the private sectors, with a concentration in eDiscovery best practices and technologies. Toni's got an extensive background with implementation of enterprise-wide eDiscovery technology, development of litigation support procedures, and discovery management. She brings perspective to legal operations teams, having the ability to leverage her extensive experience in the legal field, and as so many of us try to do, bridge the gap between legal and IT compliance. She's had a variety of positions in the legal industry, including discovery manager, legal assistant manager, practice group coordinator, litigation support specialist, and forensic analyst. And finally, Toni is currently a director at large for ACEDS's North Texas chapter. Toni, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, George.
Glad to have you with us.
Glad to be here.
So this week, I would like to start with a discussion about the evolution of eDiscovery professionals. We ran through a whole litany of positions you've held at different types of organizations. So you've got a great perspective on that. What can you tell us?
Well, I think what I've noticed is that there is really an opportunity, so many opportunities in this space. And what I've really seen since, 2006 was that those disciplines that we have learned as an eDiscovery professional have really spiderwebbed into so many opportunities. Once you have that foundational knowledge from, the ability to lead within project management teams in the eDiscovery space, in the vendor space where you're helping with a collaboration with in-house counsel, the ability to move more into information governance. I've seen a lot of professionals move into more technical roles within an IT compliance place because of the repeatable, defensible standards that we put in place. There's a niche there that we actually provide a lot of value through an enterprise. I've lost you there, George.
Here we go. Many over the years have asserted, me among them, that the skills that you develop on the eDiscovery side carry over quite effectively to IG, privacy, and the like. Many of those of us who assert that haven't actually made that type of transition, but you've been in both areas. So how do those skills carry over? And if so, how?
100%. I never, first to step back, I never thought of myself in the information governance space when I started in eDiscovery. I was truly a technologist. I just wanted to dig in there. I have a legal background, but I was really into the IT space. I enjoyed eDiscovery. I enjoyed digging, fact finding. But then when you look at what we are doing in eDiscovery, and that the idea is that we're in here, we're collecting information and the amount of data that we're collecting, and then looking back on where, trying to mitigate risk with moving more on the left, there's so much data as technology has changed, the cloud environment, so much out there. When we first started, we were looking at email, really, and some files sitting on an unstructured file share. And that we were really limited in scope. And it's really so vast. And so the ability to lean more to the left, and especially with the knowledge that you have around data and the importance of trying to minimize how much data you're processing and how much you're holding on to, you're interested in moving more to that left. I think as a professional, especially if you've been in this road for a while and you really are looking at some of the changes that you're seeing in privacy. I mean, we have an obligation now with the changes in state privacy laws that are being adopted to ensure that we're doing what we can to protect data. So for our employees and for our consumers. And so I just think that there's an evolution there of, especially if you're always leveling up, it's hard not to find yourself in that space. I tell my peers and those around my team that have dubbed themselves as eDiscovery members of the team, they're truly not just eDiscovery. We're using the technologies of eDiscovery to assist us within lots of different resources within the company, whether it's information governance with the data minimization, identifying data for privacy matters, assisting in our lowering our risk by having more insight on what we have so that we are ensured that we can protect that data. And then obviously, then there's the eDiscovery, the standard litigation and collection, preservation, and processing.
As people take the skills from eDiscovery and bring them into other areas, is that an easy transition? Do they encounter resistance? Are there people who say, look, you just don't understand what we do, so why are you telling us to do things this way? What happens there?
That's a mixed bag. So I think you can look at it two different ways. I think it's important first to make sure that when you're working in cross-collaboration teams in an enterprise level, that you are focused not just on what your goals and initiatives are related to governance and risk and compliance, but what are you doing strategically to assist the enterprise, to assist that cross-collaborative member of that team. So if it's IT, speaking to IT of the value that you're bringing to them by some of the standards that you're requesting that they put in place. Same with the business, the ability to be able to provide, to show them, not just tell them the value that you're bringing, the insight that you're bringing, to really ensure that that we meet our objectives successfully. And at the same time, we're doing what we can to make sure we're mitigating risk and bringing value to our employees and to our shareholders.
So helping to mitigate risk is, of course, a major value to bring. What other values can you bring to those folks?
Solutioning. There's so many. I've seen. When especially with IT, the eDiscovery solutions that we have available with identifying data, locating information that they may not have insight on, maybe in your environment, your unstructured data sets, where there may be data that's residing out there that's non-compliant, assisting them with enforcing policy. There's a lot of opportunity there with the tools as well as the disciplines that we have. We are really good with project management, I think the eDiscovery professional, we have, we know we have starts and ends, right? And we know, and we go through a repeatable standard process, and we really follow that. And I think we're really good at assisting teams with trying to walk through a process of making sure that they meet all of those goals in an auditable method to ensure that they're doing everything to make sure with execution of that plan. Does that make sense?
It does. And so project management, when it comes to a lawsuit, has some particular challenges because every day you get up and try to build something, and your opponent gets up and tries to destroy what you've been attempting to build. So you build your plan, they try to rip it apart. When you take these skills, techniques, and workflows and move them into IG or privacy, is there someone equivalent to that opposing counsel who's trying to tear down everything you're trying to build up, or is life a little easier that way?
Well, I think regulation's trying to tear us down. I mean, that's what you're fighting, right? You're fighting regulation. Especially just look at the privacy laws that are being adopted within the United States. Every single state has little nuances around some of those state privacy laws that they've adopted or looking to adopt. And we started off with, California taking charge and the lead with CCPA, and now you're quickly seeing, if you look at the map, it changes weekly on what's already been introduced to in committee to where it's signed now. We have signed in Virginia and California, Washington is in cross committee. So it's changing rapidly, but there's just a little bit of differences there. And then at the same time, you have the cyber threat. That's what you're fighting too. You're trying to do everything you can to protect and stay ahead of the game. And you really have a role in that, because with data minimization, right? To make sure you're only keeping what you have, knowing what you have, ensuring there's you're profiling with your vendors, because you have data now out there in the cloud. Supply chain is a huge vector for digital event. You've seen SolarWinds and the Microsoft issue that we've just seen really large and very impactful to a lot of people. And so we really are trying to just stay ahead of the game. So the other thing is that, through an organization, they're bringing on new solutions. It depends on the strategic objectives of your organization to ensure that you have a seat at that table. So making sure you're adapting to what the objectives are. So you're meeting their goals, and at the same time doing what you can to bring value.
That takes us to another topic. When you talk about, you mentioned vendors. Not everything happens just within the organization. You've got to deal with vendors. You've got to deal with law firms who don't like to think of themselves as vendors, but maybe corporations have a different view on the matter. What are your thoughts on how best to deal with all of that and the challenges around that?
Well, I think we need to look at vendors as partners, truly an extension of your team. If you look at the changes that we've seen in in-house, with just having a reduction in force in a lot of organizations, and moving more towards working with consultants and third-party providers to be truly a part of that team. I think that we as in-house teams are really looking to make sure that we're partnering with vendors that are looking forward. They're strategic, that they are staying ahead of the game on making sure that they can meet the needs and the demands of the evolution of that we're seeing within the eDiscovery practice, the IG practice, digital event, privacy. What are they doing? Are they thinking about some of the changes that we're seeing in privacy law? How is that going to change the eDiscovery landscape? How is that going to change on how we have data sitting in these hosted environments? How are our outside counsel protecting that data? What controls do they have in place within their own environments to protect? Same with our third-party suppliers, our third-party vendors. What are they doing to protect information? So I think that it's changed quite a bit. We're asking more.
So it sounds like part of what you're asking in this is for them to do a better job of managing the risk they might create as they interact with you in various ways. What can you do from your end? Is there a profiling process you follow, or what would you suggest to people?
Oh, that's exactly. I think due diligence is key. Just like we have a discovery phase, in litigation we're mining and looking for information. I think it's extremely important. I think any information governance or professional or eDiscovery professional, especially in the eDiscovery, if you're a program manager, ensuring that you're vetting those third-party vendors to ensure how they're protecting information, looking to see what controls that they have in place in their environment. What's their access controls internally with teams? Their offboarding and onboarding process might be something, but vendor risk profiling, I think, is essential on the front end before you execute contracts, and ensure that you have a seat at the table too when you're onboarding new solutions at an enterprise level is truly important. Because if we can look at the front end to ensure that and look at what we might need to do to make sure that we have the proper controls in place is really important long term.
So if there's someone who is hoping to become a new vendor to a corporation, and they're going to be going through a risk profiling exercise like this, how long might they expect this exercise to take?
That's a really good question. I think specifically in the space of just the eDiscovery sector, or
let's start there. Yeah.
Okay, let's start there. Well, I think that I don't think any professional is going to be looking to more than one vendor. We already know that. Mm-hmm. I think you're going to see that when we're looking at a vendor risk profiling, it's not just going to be an eDiscovery and the legal team that's going to be looking at that, especially if there's new solutions. There may be InfoSec teams involved within your own enterprise that you want them, their SMEs, to come in. So, it's a moving target. I would assume, you can expect with, at least a quarter to go through that process of 30, 60, 90. I think the other thing vendors need to remember is that, I don't think the legal profession, we're strategic as far as our, within a litigation, they're strategic on winning a case, right? But we all know, I have 30 years in this space. That's where their heads are, and they're kind of getting their heads out of that, and really looking beyond to be strategic around what we're doing within our space, within our environment and vendors, the solutions, long-term, looking at analytics, and we'll probably talk a little bit more about that, but they're really out there, and they're doing the same looking at that due diligence and making sure we're doing everything that we can to protect.
So is this something that's both directions? Are they looking at you and making sure that your risk profile is good, as well as you looking at them, or is it more one way?
Well, I anticipate we're going to see a shift there. I think that we're going to see, I would anticipate you'll see vendors start looking at their customers as well as vetting them just as much as we're vetting. I think that you have an obligation to do that at this point.
So if there's an organization hoping to start selling you services, they know that you're going to be looking at their risk profile. They come to you and say, don't need to worry, we're ISO 27001 certified. That's
not enough.
Okay.
You have to ask questions. You have to, it's truly like you need to go deeper than that. I strongly recommend building what's important to your organization, building out those, some almost like a questionnaire so you can start the discussion. It helps also through that, what you're building that relationship now, because now the vendor knows what's important to you. And it's going to also, that's going to be their cue to say, they got their, they're really paying attention. That might be someone we do want to partner with, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, it's not just yeah, I've got we're ISO. No, it goes way beyond that. You really need to ask the questions, because some of the things that, especially again, when you're looking at data privacy and how that's changing, people look at sensitive information differently across various organizations. Some think, oh, it's just my social security and credit card, or it's just you just want to make sure you're preserving information about this particular employee. But it goes way, or medical, it goes way HIPAA, so on. So it goes way beyond that. We're looking at IP addresses now, right? There's biometrics. There's so much, there's so much involved in sensitive information that people don't look past just what the standard, what they know, and you have to really look outside the box.
So with the constant changes in the privacy rules, regulations, laws, with the expansion into things like biometrics and the like, what can vendors do to support corporations with all of these privacy changes?
Well, again, I think looking and being strategic, paying attention to what the evolution of the laws are, having someone in place I think it's really important with these vendors. And what I've had some challenges with is they have customer advisory boards, because those customers can tell you, they can give you the information that you need to be successful to support them. I think that's really important in this space to really move forward and be on the same level with your organization, and knowing what they're dealing with. What is your customer dealing with on a day-to-day? Having insight on that, so that they're improving their technology and making advances, especially and in the vendor space, if they're hosting information. I think it's really important that they have their eye in the game and they know what their needs are, especially. And then analytics, again, I pointed that out a minute ago, but we need to, there's so much that we can gain from having insight on what we're doing with getting some KPIs and dashboarding. That visualization is really something I'm seeing a trend too, that all teams, whether it's legal, IT, the business, everyone wants analytics. Everyone wants to say, we've got the data. What can we do with the data? What can we learn more? We can be looking at trends and be more strategic for cost optimization.
Are there any KPIs that you find especially useful?
Well, I think it's important to measure, and specifically in eDiscovery, and if you're looking at litigation, I would find that's really important to make sure you're looking at case by case, how much data, obviously how many custodians you have, the amount of custodians, the amount of data that you're collecting, how much you're processing from what's at the end, how much you're actually producing, what type of case it is, where is that case, the jurisdiction of that case, the area. So that area of law is truly important, I think. And then you can look at that information and look at trends to be able to, and then also, what was your cost, with your vendors and defending a particular, or a litigation potentially. And then you can look at a trend to say, what, we've seen over time, this has been a more costly for us, or we should really go down this path. So it really helps you make some decisions, I think, in early case assessment.
Are there trends, we'll shift gears a little bit here. Are there trends you see from corporate leadership when it comes to eDiscovery?
Trends well, I think in just adopting eDiscovery beyond eDiscovery. When I was onboarded at my current position, it truly was, eDiscovery was just thought of. We were brought in. I was bringing in a program to help us with having repeatable, defensible processes in place, ensuring we're bringing in some true technology to help with that, and finding that technology could go beyond just helping the legal team. We are able to use the skill set, we're able to leverage, and legal teams are now aware of that. They're able to see what we can do and how we can bring value with those tools across the organization. As I mentioned, with data minimization, we're out there already collecting and finding data. Well, why are we not going beyond just a particular case? Why are we not looking beyond and actually taking those tools to really reach out and learn more about your environment, and then have the ability to leverage that for productivity, for operational efficiency, for compliance controls, for enforcement? I mean, so I really do see a change in the audience. It's not just the litigators who are interested to know what the eDiscovery team's doing.
You've touched on this point a few times, but I'd like to come back to it. The many different directions you've seen people take their eDiscovery careers, or eDiscovery people rather take their careers, since you got involved in all of this. We haven't just been on a straight and narrow. We've done a lot of different things.
Right. So the question is specifically is like, what have I seen? What other people have done within their career path?
Yeah, I mean, or put it another way, what sort of opportunities are there for people?
It's so vast. I mean, if you really think about it, you look at Legal Week and what where that's gone. When we go to New York, or well, hopefully we'll be going again very soon. I miss seeing my peers. There's so much in that relationship, those relationships that we're building. We learn so much from each other and see, there's forensics. I never thought, when I started off working as a law firm, and then I moved into, I had this niche for technology and I was interested, and and I started building relationships within that technology space. And it gave me opportunity to level up into litigation support, which was an easy transition from it being a paralegal, I thought. And then I was interested in finding more about, well, what are these IT guys doing when I asked them to go do something? So then I wanted to know about IT. I wanted to do it. So and there's really, but the opportunities there, if you engage yourself, you can actually make those things happen for you, especially if you're working with your community, your ACEDS community. There's so many different people within the ACEDS space that we all have different backgrounds and really can offer opportunities if you're really taking the time to build those relationships with your peers. They give you ideas that can really bring value to your career and level you up.
Well, I think listening to what you're saying, for you, one of the abiding things has been a persistent curiosity.
Yes.
And what's happening? What's making this function? Where can I take this from here? What are people doing?
But I think a lot of us in this profession are like that. I haven't met a lot of people in the eDiscovery space who aren't seeking more knowledge, aren't looking to do something different. And then there may be those professionals out there that are well suited to, where they prefer just to follow, to be in an environment where they're hosting and they're ingesting information and bringing value to their customer. And we need that. But there are those who are out there who are looking to learn more and grow. And I think that the eDiscovery space there's so much opportunity there for, especially, if there's people that are in legal and the litigation support role and are looking to do more because they enjoy technology and getting into that eDiscovery space, or getting away from as a paralegal, I remember working in that space. And if you're someone who's wants to do more outside of reviewing depositions and doing deposition summaries, or getting them, there's but again, you learn so much. I mean, I think we're professional research. When I was growing up, things never came very easy. I worked really hard, And I think that those disciplines of working hard in my career, I always told myself, I may not know the answer right when you come to me, but I know how to find it, because I'm willing to go out there and do the work and research. It's all at my fingertips. It's either going out and I know this person is going to be able to give me some information I might need, or going out there. But as long as you have that mindset that you don't have to know everything, right? You're not responsible for, like the book is just sitting in here. I have a file cabinet and I'm going to look for that resource, but just having the, knowing that you don't have to have all the answers right away, and you can seek and learn. And I just think that's part of this background, right?
Well, you might not have all the answers right away, but you've had a lot of answers for us today.
Oh, thank
Toni,
you.
Thank you very much. Toni Millican, again, is Senior Director of Information Governance and Data Privacy at Trinity Industries. I am George Socha. This has been eDiscovery Leaders Live, hosted by ACEDS and sponsored by Reveal. Thank you all for joining us today. Please join us again next Friday, April 16th, when we will be joined by Julia Hasenal, if I pronounced that properly, I hope, who is a co-founder of ProSearch. Toni, thanks again.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it.